Okay, welcome back to the Cash in Common podcast with Ryan Martin, your host, and special guest today. We've got Lu Zhou. She is going to tell us about what it's like to be dealing with the Canadian real estate market in this very odd climate. We expect that it's going to change over time here. Things seem to be quite in flux. I think, Lu and I, we go back quite a ways. We've been friends for a long time. So, Lu and I will have a lot to talk about with respect to real estate in general. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself as well. So just like to welcome Lu to the podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me here. I am super excited to be on set with you and to talk about, there's so many things that are happening in the market, so many different aspects. But I am a realtor that works the GTA, and I do specialize in resale and in pre-construction. So hopefully I have some good insight to give.
Yeah, of course you do. I think you do. That's why you're here. You got great insight to give, right? I mean, I think for everybody out there, I think it's probably important that we, highlight the fact that we're also going to talk a little bit about why you got involved in real estate.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of flip that to you. I want to kind of know if you could tell everyone why you got involved. Maybe you have some tips for people who are thinking about doing it, whether they should, if they're on the fence, all that kind of stuff. Tell a little bit about your story and then dive in from there.
So I was raised by a single mother, and I'm very grateful for that. And we just started moving. We always rented different places in the GTA. So, Mississauga, multiple places in Vaughan, etc. And so growing up, I was just so accustomed to moving and getting familiar with different areas. But ultimately, what ended up happening was one day my mother said to me, Lu, I don't want to rent anymore. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. And she's like, I don't want to rent it.
I feel good. I feel good in this
I'm
house.
Like, okay, I kind of like moving around. It was cool. I also hated moving because at certain points in my life, it meant, leaving my friends at certain schools. And when you're young, you don't want that to happen.
Right.
But yeah, one day she said, I don't want to rent anymore. I want to own something. And so that started her journey of, saving money as much as she could and starting to look at places. So still at that time, I was very young. I was very confused as to what's going on. But I just remember watching my mother going through this. And then finally, she had bought something. And it was a multiple offer situation. Like, the market was hot. And it wasn't until a year later, we were just talking about something random. And she just brought up to me, I was looking into our condo here, and the values have increased about $100,000. And had I had waited, we wouldn't have been able to buy.
Oh, okay.
And so that was my first look into how powerful real estate can be and how much it can change someone's life,
right,
and how timing matters, right?
Absolutely.
And then, later on throughout my life, I got into retail, as you know, and I was there for many, many years. And I had started working at a boutique clothing store, and we sold, middle to high-end stuff. And I would constantly build up my clientele from there. And everyone, it just so happened from time to time, these customers would come in and they would say, you should really get into real estate. Have you thought about real estate? And it was just a weird thing that kept happening.
There were like high-end clients that come into the store, right?
Yeah, some of them owned a real estate brokerage. Some of them were realtors, and they were like, you should get into real estate. It wasn't every day, but they would come in and say, have you thought about real estate? You would do so well. And oddly enough, even throughout high school, before I started working at this boutique, I always just had a weird thought in my head. Whatever I choose to do in the future, I'm going to do real estate on the side. I always just kept saying that. And so it just kept being implemented into my head. And then one day I just woke up and I said, I'm just going to get my license.
Yeah. Wow. So your mom, that's interesting that your mom
she was like the start.
I don't think we ever talked about that, actually.
Yeah.
Your mom, your mom was the first one to get you involved.
She was the first seed. I think that
she's not a real estate agent.
No, No, she actually works in retail as well,
Oh,
which I
okay.
think was how I got into retail too, just
Right.
by watching her. And she definitely was the first one that planted the seed. It didn't even it wasn't even after that conversation I had with her that I thought, oh, I'm going to be a real estate agent. I had no idea what a real estate agent even was at the time, right? But as you look back, it's kind of funny how things come full circle. And I'm so happy that, you know, she was the first one to kind of give me that realization.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like, you know, you get sort of insights as well from people that you're, you know, like in the customer service industry. You really get a sample, a reflection sometimes of like what it is that suits you.
Yes.
Right. So you get like a lot of people telling you, hey, you know, you should do real estate. You should do real estate. So sort of, is there something you think, if there were specific criteria that like you think makes someone really suited for the kind of work that you do?
You know, there's realtors of all different kinds, right?
Yeah.
But I think, and as cheesy as it's going to sound, I think you really need to have your why into doing it.
So cheesy, but so important.
It's so it is.
I don't think it's cheesy, to be honest. I mean, I think having your why is the reason I do what I do. It's the reason that we continue to do what we do, and then, you know, the partners that we find that work together, that I work with you. I think it's super key. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because your why is going to back, you know, how well you do anything, even when you're stressed, even when you're, you know, bombarded with so much work and, you know, you have so much on the go, that your why is going to back it. Right. And your clients will feel that, right? Your clients will feel, oh, they don't care. They're just in it for the money. Or, oh, no, they really do care about me and they're giving me good advice.
So what's your why then, would you say?
I think watching my mother go through that and seeing, wow. And I'm not saying, you know, you buy real estate and then a year after it's going to go up 100,000, although it is very common in our market. It's not always the case. But I think the sentence that sticks with me is, if I had waited, we wouldn't have been able to buy. And well, just the whole story, actually, because I want to help people do that, right? I want to help people see, listen, you can get, you know, to your retirement. Like, there's so much more that comes from real estate than just purchasing real estate as a home to live in.
Snoop Dogg said it best.
What? What did he say?
No, you don't know.
No, what did he say?
He said if you own he said there ain't nothing in the world that you can own other than real estate, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in other words, it's like the only thing that can make you rich.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Yes.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
think
agree.
If you build
I
out,
agree.
You build out something else, you might be able to. But, you know, his point is there's so much value, I think, in real estate, and I totally resonate with what you're saying, right? And like teaching people how to use their wealth by investing in real estate is super valuable. You get a lot out of teaching people how to do it.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Like if that's your why, your mother having taught you, that's pretty interesting as well, you know?
Yeah.
So I see that as pretty interesting. But now, so your focus in real estate, though, would you say you have a specific niche that you really work with? Is it more downtown? Is it like outside the city, GTA, or not so much? Or is it condos? I know that you specialize sort of in condos, but we can talk a little bit about that. Yeah. But would you say in terms of area, does that really matter? Or is it more like, you know?
Yeah, so for me, I started off, I think, more in the Vaughan area or Middle York region, etc. But now it's anywhere. It's from, you know, core downtown to, you know, Oshawa to Hamilton. You know, we did a development in Dundalk, which is just 40 minutes north of Orangeville, to, you know, Barrie. It just goes everywhere because people don't move necessarily all the time in the same area, right? They migrate to a totally different city, right? And because I had the opportunity to work with lots of developers that build, and also, you know, outside the GTA, like we did a development in Windsor as well, right? That also develop in the core. you start to build your knowledge of multiple different areas, and in turn you can use that knowledge to help people.
That's
right?
I mean, and that's that's so true. I mean, I feel like people are moving from different area to different area, right? So you as a realtor kind of have to have a base of knowledge about how to find. So, COVID is a pretty good example of this. I'm sure that you had a lot of clients that were moving from the city out into the country. Are you still seeing that as something that's happening in the market, or is it not happening as much?
Not happening as much.
Yeah. Are things cooling in those areas, would you say? Do you know?
I think, when the market cooled in 2022, everything sort of followed. But now we're seeing it sort of pick back up. But if we're just talking about people specifically moving out of the city, because they want to work, because they can work from home or due to COVID, we're not seeing that as much anymore.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of people are not working. I mean, a lot of people have been sort of forced back to work, right? Or
Exactly.
At least part-time back to work in the office. So
exactly.
I feel like the problem with that, I think, potentially, is you have a lot of people who have remorse over having bought outside the city.
Exactly.
Do you have any clients like that? Did you sell anyone anything outside the city?
I helped some people move during COVID, but no regrets. But for them, it was more so upsizing.
Right.
And for them, it was, so yes, COVID had maybe sparked, that interest, and hey, you have an opportunity to get out of your condo and move to, a bigger home, but their budget also comes to play.
Right.
Because it wouldn't have been possible if they stayed downtown. They definitely would not have been able to get the property that they wanted. Let's say somewhere in Vaughan.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, there's multiple different factors, but I would say all in all, I think if there had to be a different reason other than COVID, or else if someone did purchase, moved out of the city to go to, I don't know, let's say Markham, specifically because of COVID, then yeah, you're probably going to have some regret, right? But if it was for a different reason, you have a growing family, or you want it to be close to, family members, things like that, then I think you should be okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, it really depends on your goals, right?
Exactly.
Initially, it's like, if you've got a family that's growing, where are you going to move? Like, are you going to move? You're going to try. And again, I think as well, certain values shift depending on what you want. Like, for instance, my family is what it is. We still, we have we don't have a ton of space, but I value being able to go outside and walk and get a coffee.
Exactly.
Know what I mean? Value being able to, like, just be in a place where you can go walk and get to a restaurant.
Yeah, and I have clients like that too.
Yeah.
And,
it's
and
just
they
like,
love it.
Depends on your goals. It really depends on your goals. So, I think as a realtor, you kind of have to be flexible to that, and you have to be open to the fact that, like, everybody has different goals, and you have to sort of meet those needs as they come, right?
Exactly.
And that sort of goes hand in hand with a lot of what you're talking about with, or like what you're seeing now with developers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, some developers are making efforts to make sure that that they're accommodating people's needs, but it might not be true in every instance, right? I don't know what you're seeing out there with respect to developers now, right? I know a big pocket of what you do is condo related work.
Yeah.
And so, you've got a lot of condo buildings still going up.
Yeah.
And are you,
record level.
In your view, do you think you see those condos being filled, or do you see there being a potential risk here for like a glut in the market? What do you think?
I think that there will always be a buyer for our condos given the market. And as we were talking about before the podcast, we have so many people coming in over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. I think they said they were planning to have 1.5 million in the next 3 years, which is a lot.
That's insane.
We definitely do not have.
I thought it was even more. But
it could be. It could be. I think they were saying, they plan until 2025 to have 1.5 million immigrants come in. So where? Like, where are they, going to go in addition to all the people that are already here, right? And so I think there will always be a demand for our product. That being said, I know the local market probably is not happy about it because developers are making things smaller and smaller, right? So, you know, you have a studio, even some now under 400 square feet. It's very small, and from what we're used to, yes, we feel it's absurd. And again, this is not to discredit the developers, because it becomes the industry norm. Right. So they're doing, if it's an industry norm and they're doing it, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But for the general public, you know, we've rarely used to have as many studios as we do now.
Right.
Now it's like, it's so common, right?
Especially like in downtown core areas.
100%,
Or
right?
are
And
you
we're
all-
slowly
yeah.
starting to see it come up to, you know, the Vaughan areas, right? And some developers are trying to go against that by making bigger units. However, it's not much of a difference when you're looking at a price per square foot, right? So there was a new development that came out in Mississauga, and their starting is, I believe, a one bedroom, right?
Okay.
But their starting price is over $900,000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So just because they're not selling studios and they're marketing it as, you know, they're selling bigger units, it really, you know, on a dollar per square foot, it's, I mean, you're not getting like a deal, right? And in pre-construction, you're never going to get a deal per se. It's, you know, if you hold the value for whatever it is, the 4 to 6 years that it takes to finish, you know, processing the sales and the build, and you make appreciation, then you're fine, right? But to answer your question, I do think that there will always be a demand for our condos if we continue to feed it, right?
Got it. You would say you work strictly with one builder, or do you work with multiple builders?
Yeah, we've worked with several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that's like, yeah. So in all of those, like, you know, are you seeing, I suppose the question really is, are there specific kinds of new developments that make more sense in this kind of an economy? Do you think condos make sense? I suppose maybe they do, because you can make them smaller. You can make houses smaller too, I guess, but condos seem to make a lot of sense right now.
Yeah.
Right? Downtown.
Exactly.
In particular.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's, you know, I mean, I feel like, you know, the state of real estate right now is just, it's very, very unpredictable.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you put your finger on it right now, would you say, we talked a little bit about, before the podcast started, an article that said that they project that real estate will grow in 2023.
Yeah.
You say the influx of individuals for sure, I think, will grow, but are you seeing the shift happen right now? Or are we still waiting for it?
So whenever there's a transition in the market, what I find is that, like, when we're in a fully down market, it's all going down, right? It's, you know, the freeholds and the condos. And as well as when we're transitioning up, we often see a shift as to which one of these markets are doing better first. And right now it's freehold. Okay.
Oh, freehold.
Right now it's freehold.
Okay.
So, and obviously if we're in a hot market like we were beginning of 2022, everything is selling, right? Everyone's doing a multiple offer day. Everything is selling for over ask. Everything is selling firm, no conditions. That's in a hot market, right? So as we were transitioning down in 2022, the freeholds fell the fastest and the first. And they fell quick and easy, right? They fell, you know, 100,000, a few 100,000, very, very fast. That's the same thing in 2017. Fell really fast, right? Condos were okay, but they slowly started to decline after the freehold market. And then we both started, it was just somewhat of a depreciating market, right? They were both depreciating. And now for quite some time, we've sort of hit the bottom. I feel that we've hit the bottom anyway, and we've just been balancing out. Now the freehold market has picked up, and I want to say it's picked up at least in the last 6 weeks.
Okay.
Where you are starting to see properties do multiple offers, and there's 20 plus, offers on these properties.
Are you
right?
seeing multiple offers right now on
Yes.
on freehold lots, you're saying?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
including condos, not condos? What about condos?
Condos are iffy. If you have a very rare product that, like we were in one on Stadium downtown, and it was a rare unit that, again, didn't come up, like a unit like that hasn't come up in 6 years.
Crazy. Okay.
Right? So, anyways, gorgeous, face the water, really nicely done, renovated, 2 parking spots. There was, I think, 17 or 18 offers on that.
Oh my God.
Because it's rare.
Sure.
The demand is there. The demand has always been there. What was the
asking price?
$9.99, and it sold for 1.38, something like that. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the demand has always been there,
yeah.
right? They've just been waiting,
mm-hmm.
right? And so anyways, but other than that, like the freehold market compared to the condo market, even in our showings, even in the freehold properties that we list, the showings are as if it were a hot market. Like they come in, I want to say like you could get 20 showings in one day.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's
so
crazy.
it's picked up quite a bit. Whether you're doing an offer day or not, it's very likely that you will sell a freehold property in this market quick.
Right.
And probably for a little bit more money, right? But the condo market, if we continue to stay on track with where we are, the condo market should reflect the freehold. And it should pick up as well because overall we're low in inventory.
Yeah.
We don't have the inventory.
So that's where the developers come in.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And they need to start to develop things that make sense.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's the real crucial issue with that though is that, the demand for Toronto and to be close to Toronto,
yep.
if you remap Toronto or you change the way in which it looks so much so that all you have are condos, I really think you get into a place where people are like, I don't know if I want to be in Toronto anymore, right? Like,
yeah,
it's almost, and we had Ray Chan on the podcast very recently, and he talked about how the commercial real estate right now is different, right? So you have downtown empty floors, like you still have empty floors in big towers.
Yeah,
and the implications of that are, well, what's going to happen to those empty floors? And is that going to have an impact negatively on the city? So I can see potentially it can happen two ways. You create a city that has vibrant elements to it that are different than they used to be. So Toronto isn't what it used to be for sure. But
right.
if you continue to have condos only, the risk, of course, is, hey, how do we create an environment that is vibrant, that is interesting to be in? I feel like Markham is a good example of a place where they kind of figured it out. Like, oh, that's cool. You got condos and you have, I don't know, have you been to Markham like recently?
Yeah.
And I feel like downtown, you'd have to try and adopt something similar to keep people interested in wanting to be there.
Yeah. Because
the cultural elements start to go away if you don't have people working there.
Yes.
What do you think about that? You think that's true, or like, I don't know. What do you think will happen to Toronto if we just have condos down there? I'm a little nervous about it.
I'm nervous too. I mean, obviously those are the properties that are being built. It's majority of it is all condos, if not all. If we're talking about the core, it's pretty much all condos, right?
I guess there's not really space to build anything else, right?
No.
Yeah.
But Scarborough, like they still build, rarely detached homes, townhomes. So I know that's not central Toronto, but
no, it's everywhere. Like I feel like that's still Toronto kind of like even as far as Mississauga, still accessible Toronto-wise, right?
Yeah.
So
I think Toronto is definitely its own culture, and I think the people that love living in Toronto because everything, they get to try the different types of restaurants are there as quick as, a 5-minute walk from their place. If they enjoy that, there will always be a market for it. But I guess the question is how much, right? How much, and it's always flipping, right? People live there to rent, maybe they want to buy, they can't afford the city, and they'll have to move out, right? Students that come in, and they rent and then they leave. So there's always going to be this switching in and out. But yeah, at some point, does it get too much?
I know.
I don't know. Maybe we just all adapt to it and we get used to it.
I'm also just like, philosophically thinking about it like, oh, what's going to happen? But I mean, it seems like there'll always be a demand.
Yeah, I think so.
We're still going to have universities in the city. We're still going to have restaurants. We're still going to have all of that stuff. And I hope that continues, and I think as we go forward, that it should continue. What did I want to ask you? I feel like when you were talking, I thought about something. I was like, I can't remember what it is I was going to ask you. But the developers, as they continue to evolve, one of the most interesting things I think would be to factor in what I'm saying, right? So creating buildings that are a little bit unique. You have buildings now, of course, they're going to go up, but also they have very interesting things on the main floor. Maybe you have creative spaces on the main floor, right? You have bars and restaurants that make sense on the main floor. And there's some examples of that in the city. But I don't, I'm hoping that we can start to see that cultural sort of emergence as we go forward, did we talk about tips with respect to how somebody who wanted to get started in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it goes back to, you have to have a why because you need to provide good customer service.
Yeah.
We already, as a whole, don't have the best, we don't have the best name out there. When you hear realtor, you think like scum, like you think the worst people on the planet that are just liars and are just out there for commissions and to get a deal done. And I'm sure there are people out there, like there's I believe over 70,000 of us now.
Sure, but
so of course
any industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Potentially.
Right? But they think of us like low human beings. So the general public does, right? And it's because bad stories get out and then it paints a bad picture for all of us. And so you need to provide, good customer service. Take the time to do your research and learn. Like, you never stop learning in this industry. There's never a deal that's ever the same.
Yeah.
Not one, right? And so don't act like, you get to a point where you know it all. Always ask questions and learn. And the best thing is, you have to provide good service, right? And that all comes with your why. Like, why are you doing this, right? Are you doing this to genuinely help people, or are you only doing this because, of the money?
Yeah.
Right? Because it will catch up to you at some point.
You don't think you can do it just purely for money? What do you think?
So that's the thing. There are many different types of agents. I do think that you can do it only for the money, but there's also got to be a powerful why behind that. Are you doing it for the money to provide for your family? Mm-hmm. Like, you can still link those two, right? And still be able to provide good service. I just think ultimately, if you're doing it for the money and you get to a point where you're so overwhelmed and you just don't care, like there's no care left in you, your clients are going to feel that, and it will impact your business, right? If you do have a sense of why, it's easier on your stress. That's what I mean by that.
Right. And then you can convey messages as well.
Yes.
Right? Like, how do you... because that's what you also have to do. I think you got to put yourself out there as a realtor, right? You've got to be willing to not just put up I don't think it works the same way as it used to, right? Like 20 years ago, maybe you could put up a billboard or you could put up a whatever, but that seems like not something that realtors are doing, right? Like, I mean, you get a lot of traction online, and I think it's because you're educating people on the process of what it's like, not just the process of buying a house, but what it's like to be a realtor. Yeah. And giving people a window into that really sort of gives them I feel like it makes them feel like they want to be connected to you. So I think a lot of people would be more inclined to reach out to you as a result of that. And so do you think as well, is there strategies for putting yourself out there that you would recommend to somebody who is thinking about doing it?
Yeah, I think, again, this is going to sound so cheesy, but just be yourself. Like, there's so many and I'm sure you know this too. There's so many, realtors doing videos now and which is amazing, right?
They're doing a lot of like fly overhead fancy videos.
Yeah.
Not always,
Yeah. And, again, if you're creating content as a realtor, that's incredible. I think you should be doing those things, and not everyone does, and some very successful agents that don't are still very, very successful, but that's because they've built up their own huge database now that just replenishes, itself, right?
Somebody from there is going to reach out.
And the referral. You know, so they've already established a business, right? But if you're coming into the business, yes, one of the best ways to be seen right now is social media, right? But how are you going to differentiate yourself is by who you are. So like for me, I love motivational quotes. I love reading self-help books. What's
your favorite book?
Oh, there's so many. I don't know. There's so many. I really like Jim Quick's book and I forget the name.
Okay.
But
Jim Quick's book, we'll look it up and figure it out and put it in the show notes.
Anyways, well, Jim Quick, he helps you. This is going to be so ironic.
Do it.
No, it helps you retain information. And I'm like, I can't remember the name of his book. But other than that, he talks about brain health.
Oh, he's the memory guy.
He's the memory guy. And how ironic that I forgot. But there's so many books, and you just got to pick one up and start going at it. But just to kind of trickle back, make weird jokes that are, like jokes that you would make to your friends, right?
Outside of real estate, even just sort of like talking about it, right?
Yeah, like, it could just be, if you're sarcastic, then be sarcastic, right? If that's you get what I'm saying? Like everyone has their own personality, right? If you're, I don't know, like if you're serious. Yeah.
If you're serious, be serious. No, yeah.
You get what I mean?
I know
like
exactly
you
what you mean.
want to kind of talk to the camera as if you would a friend, right? If that's what you're doing, right? So like even just recently I posted something where I made like a broccoli soup at the end of the night.
Nice.
And
I'd watch that.
Yeah, and I whatever. And someone reached out to me like, "Oh my God, like what did you use?" And what I'm saying is you never know what it's going to be to kind of start and not every, reply or DM that you get about something non-related to music, non-related to real estate has to do
to music.
With, I was thinking about your guitar.
That's great.
Not every, reply or DM, asking you about something non-real estate related, you don't need to try to intercept that by adding real estate into the conversation.
Sure.
But they know that you're a realtor, right? And it's, again, just building that connection over time. And when you do it organically by having them reach out to a post that you did or a video that you did, it helps to build that trust. In this industry now, it's all about trust, right? Because everyone knows there's so many, stories about negligent realtors and unprofessional realtors that people are more careful.
For sure.
Right? And it all comes down to trust. Can I trust this person? Can I, find common ground? Can I find similarities with this person? And when you just are naturally and organically yourself, there's no easier way.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, and that's I think, that's just a page out of the book of regular, any kind of business.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, for me as well. I mean, you see the guitar. I have a lot of stuff that, people see on a camera and they're like, oh, you play guitar. It's helpful that people know that because they feel they should know who I am. First of all, I shouldn't be hiding it. Yeah. A big part of who I am for a long time was a musician. So why not show people that, right? So, I think it's very important to not hold back and have the confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to share things about myself that are personal, even if it's not related to my work. I'm not just like talking about how I'm such a good lawyer and I'm such a this and I'm such a that. It's important that you know that I'm a person and I have interests like you, and we do the same, I do the same kind of things. I can recommend a book to you. I can do this. I can do, right? It's all, it all brings people kind of closer, and that trust gets built on that personal touch, of who you are as a person, And the thing about you, Lou, is you're kind of, you're very like, wrapped up in real estate. I mean, you guys just got through a renovation, right? Can I talk about that? Are you okay?
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
yeah. So you got through a renovation. I think actually this is very vital because you said that the renovation industry, you learned a lot about it by getting through a renovation yourself. And now you have some information about that you can share with clients. You want to talk about what that's like?
Sure. Like? So we did a renovation for the past year, I would say. It was less than a year, but to get things fully set up, I would say about a year. And as great as our, builder and general contractor was, there was still a lot of things that we had to overcome because it was just naturally the process, right? So to pick our material, to go through, what step came first, all these things were very hectic, right? Because you're still trying to go on with your day-to-day life, but all these things are due and you're trying to, get these things all done within the time period. So there's, less, delays, right?
Sure.
And so through that, though, we learned so much about different kinds of material, different kinds of cuts, how things should be placed together, different types of silicone, different types of like grout, all these things that even though when we were going through it, the thought in our head was, we don't want to be doing this. Like, we need to work. We're busy. We don't want to stand here and learn about all these things, but it's so vital and so important that of course we made the time to do it. But we also knew, throughout that time and when we were going through it, that this is going to help us.
Yeah.
This is going to help us guide our clients, talk to our clients about materials, because even when you're purchasing a home, if a home has marble counters, is it going to impact your purchase if you know how hard it is to take care of marble? You know, and these are, and I get it,
so
right?
Is it hard? Actually, I don't even know.
It is hard.
Oh, okay.
It is hard. It stains very, very easily. Even if you get it sealed, it's not, it's not 100%. So there are, it will naturally stain. So just because you see it, it's perfect, it's new, and you cook on it once and you leave, a vegetable on it or anything and the color's different, it's because it's absorbed.
Right.
And,
so you got some detailed knowledge now.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is this part I can go on for a long time, but what I'm saying is there's so many little intricacies and different types that we learned. Like we still made mistakes in our choices that we've learned about. But what I'm saying is, it helped. I can now help my clients with it. Right.
So you can educate them. You can dissuade them from buying something that may have certain materials in it, even though it's nice or expensive.
Exactly.
You have different ways of which you can approach that, right?
It's mainly, I think, just the upkeep, right? The upkeep of, of what you're buying, right?
Yeah.
And are you going to be okay with that?
Right.
But I think what we were also talking about before the podcast was, I think in this market, if you can afford to do a custom reno over a new build, you should definitely do that.
Why?
Yeah. Well, number one, I think for us, after going through this process, we were comparing, okay, what would this cost if I were to buy it from a developer? Right. And we would probably pay the same price for something just average, if I could say that.
Okay.
So
you mean like from a developer?
Yes.
Directly.
Yeah. So from a developer, we probably pay the same price, just an average, basic finishes. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the industry standard.
So you guys did just so we know, you did a full reno of the house? You did everything?
Yeah.
Basement too?
Not the basement.
Oh, not the basement.
Yeah. So main and upper. And so what I'm saying is, so usually from the developer, the basement isn't done anyway.
Oh, right.
Right.
Of course.
So, so I think if you had the only difference is it's going to be harder to pay for a full reno if you don't have like all cash, but you can also talk to the bank about, construction loans or different types of loans, if that's something that you wanted to access. But
you guys, you didn't use any construction loans, did you? That's still a thing. I feel like that's sometimes hard to do.
It is hard, right? So, but if you did want to take out a loan, because the quality and the difference it's like night and day, right? So if this is a home that you're going to be living in for 20, 30 years, is that investment worth it, right? So I think if someone did have the cash on hand to renovate, definitely do that, because you can pick your own finishes. The finishes most likely are going to be better than what the developer is providing. Right. You get to add your own flair, your own design. For me personally, I think it's worth it. It's also a lot more stressful. You have to carve out a lot of time, do a lot of research, but
so then when you're showing people houses, I suppose you can say to them, listen, this might not look the way you want it, but there's a lot of opportunity, right? So I'm sure you can maybe see more opportunity in a lot of properties now as a result, and that goes a long way for somebody trying to get into the market, especially who's never done it before and is like, oh, I don't know if I can afford a house that looks any nicer than this. I feel like that's a big deal. It you can really I can see how you would be able to help clients in that context, right? Yeah, exactly. And I feel like as well, as you know, you're also, I just want to very quickly plug this event that we have coming up, because I think
it's an exciting one.
But I also think it's a good example of what you're talking about, which is that a custom home built from the ground up by an actual owner is going to look, and it's going to be, it's going to have the nicer finishes than probably a builder or a developer who's just doing this externally, not interested in, is more interested in the bottom line and what it's going to cost, whereas these guys were more interested in building something out that they could live in themselves.
Yes, exactly.
And, you really get a lot out of the market that way. Yeah. So, hopefully you're coming out.
I am. Do you want to tell them where it's at?
So I think so. This event is happening at 371 Rathburn Road. It was by event, invite only. I don't know if there'll be space by the time this gets released. Hopefully there is, but you've got to RSVP. You can get in touch with me, or you can get in touch with the law firm, or you can get in touch with Lipa Homes. There's just different ways in which you can RSVP. There's also an Eventbrite, but that link would need to come to you directly from me or somebody from Lipa Homes. So, but I don't know. It might fill up in space. We're thinking we might do another one of these, or maybe you and I will do something together. We can figure out another event, but it'll be good to see you there. And it's going to be educational for me. I like to check out custom homes, and I never had to do a major reno all by myself. So it's going to be really good.
I've seen the photos of the property, and it looks amazing. It's beautiful. So she did an amazing job.
Yeah, I think she's got a good sense of design, I think. Yeah. And so it should carry her a long way. And it'll be good for you to see it.
I know. Well, I'm excited.
I'm open.
Only 2 days away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think we should leave it there. Yeah. And if you've got anything else you want to add, feel free. And, just maybe takeaways for anybody watching. If you want to talk about real estate as it stands now, you want to talk about investing, or you want to talk about what it's like to be a realtor, anything like that.
I think right now the main focus is the market, on where it's going to go. So I think just for anyone that may be interested in getting into the market, or again is wondering where it is, if it's a good time to sell, etc., I think these next 2 weeks are going to be a good indicator as to where the market will transition towards the next half of the year. I know you mentioned that in the article, that it was they are predicting that the next half of the year will be the market will do a lot better. But I think leading up to that, these next few weeks are going to be crucial.
Nice. Let's see if that's true.
Yeah,
I hope the article. I'm waiting. I want to see, because I mean, it's busy even for me. Yeah. But let's see how that continues. If the rates change again, we can see. I'm sure that there'll be some changes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, Lou, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Ryan, always a pleasure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you as always, and we'll have you on again, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Okay.